Hi guys, today I wanted to give a quick overview of buildings and synergies. So the first thing that I just want to go over is the three things that you really want to be looking at when you're looking at your city. That is your income, your food production, and also your population. These are the main three important factors when deciding on what you're going to build in your settlements to get the most out of it. As you can see here, we have the iron mine. It increases income by a flat amount through industry. The toolmaker does the same thing, as well as increasing trade influence by a percentage. These synergize extremely well with the private workshop, which increases income of industry by a percentage, the state workshop, which increases income by a flat amount through industry and reduces corruption, which we will go over later, and labor. Labor is important because it increases income through industry by a percentage, but also because it's one of the only two buildings that increases your population growth. Trade ports increase income by a flat amount through commerce. This synergizes with only two other buildings which you can build in your capital city. Those are the marketplace, which increases commerce by a percentage, and the inn, which increases it by a percentage and through flat income. The lumberyard increases income through peasantry by a flat amount. Now the buildings that this synergizes with are the government support buildings and the land development building. These buildings increase income from peasantry by a flat amount, as well as producing food and population growth. Whereas the government support building increases food production by a percentage, as well as increasing peasantry by a percentage. Now the synergies with the lumberyard is slightly different in the sense that it's more like a hybrid. It increases income through peasantry by a flat amount. However, the buildings that synergize along with it are buildings that increase your food as well. So it's it won't produce the most amount of money, but it will produce a good amount of money and food. Farmlands are focused purely on food. They synergize extremely well, once again, with the government support buildings and the land development buildings. Now, things to note, there are only two buildings that increase your population. Those are labor and land development. Now, the building that will get you the most money out of your settlements, especially once you expand, is the Grand Treasury Mint. This is because it will reduce corruption not only in this commandery but also in adjacent commanderies. The reason why this is important is because the more that you expand your territory, the more corruption starts to seep in. Corruption can become really bad. As you can see here, the corruption that I've got currently is minus 14%. That means out of my total gross income, 14% of it is being lost to corruption. I have seen corruption go as high as 90%, so as you can imagine, it will completely stifle your income. So with that in mind, as you can see here, there are normally only 2 to 3 buildings that will synergize extremely well with your minor settlements, leaving you 3 slots which you can then build with whatever you want. The things that I would normally focus on in those 3 slots that you have in your buildings will be public order, garrisons, and then normally any kind of unique building that you have for your faction. An example of this would be the Grand Tributary Palace, which increases the tribute that I get by percentage. The reason why I've gone for this building is because it's extremely good at increasing my money. So as you can see here, my tributaries are providing me with 7.1 thousand income. Increasing this by a further 30% is extremely impactful. The other building that we get is the Bandit Hall. Now the Bandit Hall is extremely cool because it increases the replenishment faction-wide. Now the downside to the Bandit Hall is that it reduces your income by banditry by 25%. Now what's interesting about this is, unfortunately, it doesn't actually explain to you where this minus 25% comes from. So I'm going to go over it with you. The minus 25% actually is only part of the reduction in percentage of your income. If you look here, you can see it says industry, and then in brackets, it's got the flat amount of industry, and then a percentage. The reduction of banditry is only taken away from that percentage, which means it's not actually that impactful. However, if you want to save as much money as possible, what I would recommend is building the Bandit Hall in, say, farmland. The reason why I would say build it in farmland is because if we take this city, for example, we're only getting a bunch of income through peasantry, and it's extremely high in terms of its percentage, which is 304, and so reducing that by 25% through the banditry is not as impactful as, say, in my main money-making city, which is generating me 4,000 gold. So that's what I would recommend. Build the Bandit Hall in a city which isn't producing that much money, and build the Tribute Hall wherever you can fit it in, pretty much. So the next thing I want to go over are assignments. Now, assignments are missions that you send your generals on, and they have some kind of benefit within a capital city. So if you can see here, agricultural exploitation increases food by 50% and increases food produced by +4. Whereas agricultural development reduces construction time of buildings for agriculture by 2, and increase food from farming, not fishing, but farming, by 100% as well. Next, we have industrial exploitation, which increases income from industry by 30%, which is great just for increasing your income. And then we also have overseas mustering, which reduces the amount of turns it takes for your units to muster to full strength when they've first been recruited. There is another edict, there is another assignment that isn't here, which increases replenishment by 15%. So these are just like some of the effects that you can have. Another one would be this one, which is it reduces corruption by -50% and increases satisfaction faction-wide. So that's huge. It will save you a lot of money if you have high corruption in a settlement, and increase satisfaction if you have issues like that. There are some not so impactful edicts, for instance, reducing military supplies for enemy armies in the local commandery is very situational. Normally you would want to apply that when you're being sieged, but I just want to highlight just how impactful assignments can be in your campaign, and make sure that you're doing them. Also, alongside those are your administrator slots. Now, administrator slots have 2 effects. They have the position effect, which means that no matter who you put here, this is what they will have an effect on. So you can see that being an administrator increases available armies by 1. It makes it so the officer does not desire a higher court position until they reach rank 4. Income from all sources in the local commandery where they are placed is increased by 15%, and it reduces corruption in that local commandery by -30%. Now, underneath that, you see administrator effects. Now, this is where it gets interesting, because the administrator effects are the effects unique to your character. So as you can see here, my administrator effects for this general increases public order by 5, reduces construction costs by -27%, and increases population growth. Whereas if you look at my other general, his effects are increases income from commerce, silk, and spice by 40%, income from industry by 15 and then 5% for a combined total of 20, reduces construction cost by 15 or minus 15, and increases population growth. So actually looking at your characters and the effects that they will have in that commandery is also very important. One other thing to note, when you place an administrator, the administrator and his retinue will garrison in that settlement as long as they are not actively in an army. You can see this here. Now in this city, you can see that I've got an administrator here. And if we click on the garrison inspection, you can see that this is my administrator. So him, as well as his entire retinue, are basically part of this garrison now. Now, what's important about this is they have no upkeep cost. Outside of the administrator's overall income for his salary, the actual garrison that he's got, his army, has no income, which means that you can buy the most expensive units, give them to him for his retinue, then recall him back to the city, and they won't have any upkeep cost, only the initial recruitment cost, which means that you can have extremely powerful garrisons which are customized to protect your administered cities, which I think is a great addition to the game. Hi guys, so I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm planning to do more of these. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. You can always catch me live as well on Twitch. The link will be in the description, so hopefully I'll see you there. So thank you very much guys, I appreciate that, and I'll see you all later.